long should you wait in between writing your book and editing your book? Now, this is subjective. You can decide what's the best fit for you, but here are a couple of things to consider to help you make the best decision. When it comes to editing your own work, I like to tell people to wait as long as they possibly can. Now, I understand we're on some deadlines. I understand we have things to do, and I understand that people are incredibly impatient in this industry. However, when you go from writing directly into editing your book, you're still very close to it. You're still very much in that mindset. You're very much in those characters' heads, and you don't have a lot of perspective or objectivity. If you wait even a couple of days, it gives you a little space to clear your head. Now, I prefer you wait longer. I would much rather see you wait 2 weeks, a month, even longer before you're editing things. That is because I want you to get away from that. I don't want you to be so in your head that you're remembering things and you're thinking of things and you're distracting yourself as you're doing this. I want you to come into it with fresh eyes. This is kind of like the equivalent of reading through someone else's work. You're going to catch a lot more mistakes than they're going to catch up their own mistakes, right? Just like as you are giving this to your beta readers, to your proofreaders, to your editors, they're going to catch a lot more than you do because you're close to it. Having that distance kind of gives you fresh eyes on it. It kind of gives you a perspective that you would not have had before. It allows you to look at it without already having all this jumble in your head. You can track through your plot holes and your errors and your storylines and making sure everything is consistent and it makes sense. The more time, the more space, the more distance you have between writing and editing, the better you're going to do editing this. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. If you're paying a professional editor, let's say you're going the indie route, you do not want them dealing with a bunch of little things. That's why we're putting it through Grammarly. It's why we're putting it through pro writing aids. Why we're going through beta readers and proofreaders before we send it to professional editing. Because if they have to deal with all your little silly mistakes, they're going to miss some of the bigger mistakes. You want this as clean as possible. If you're shopping this around to a traditional publisher, it's got to be as clean as possible, right? Even though you're putting it through beta readers and proofreaders and Grammarly and pro writing aid, you still want it as clean as possible. So I do recommend that you take the time to actually have a gap of time. And I would say 1 week minimum. I would rather see you do 2 weeks. I would rather see you do a month. I would not necessarily say that you have to wait a super long time, but I can tell you the things that I have written and then just set aside for years. I can come back and my gosh, the things that I can catch, the ways I can make it better, the ways that I have grown as an author just in that time frame have made a huge impact in this. I'm not saying you have to wait a year. I'm not saying you have to wait 5 years. I am saying give it a week. Try working on something else. Get yourself away from that project so that you can come into it as a fresh pair of objective eyes. We don't want you to be so involved in this that you miss a bunch of things, and that's what most people do. So let me give you a plan. If you are going to run with this, and again, always subjective, you can do whatever you want. You are your own author. You have your own process. You know what works best for you. Do what works best for you. Sometimes I go straight into editing. I don't always wait because I can come into it with a fresh perspective because I also write incredibly quickly. I write my novels start to finish in under 2 weeks. So I'm very, very quick about this. It's not like it's taken me months where it's involved my entire life. So I frequently will immediately edit it. But you know what? I catch a lot more when I wait. I catch a lot more the longer that I wait, the more perspective I have on it. So if you're going to do this, and I do recommend that you do, give it a week or two before you're editing, I want you to not waste that time. I want you to start your next project. You should always be thinking about the next thing in this industry. You should always be ready to move on to the next thing because you don't know what's going to sell. You don't know what's going to make you money. You don't know what your time is going to look like 6 months from now. You may need to get this done because something's going to come up then. So you want to make sure you're always moving forward. You're never stagnant. You're never waiting. So finish your book. As soon as your book is done, give yourself a few hours, give yourself a day, and then get into that next story. Set this one on the shelf and let it percolate. Let it sit, let it season, let it wait, and get yourself some perspective. Get very strongly onto something else. Pay attention to that, and then after your designated time frame, whatever that is for you, a week, 2 weeks, a month, come back to it. Use it as a cleanser. You're not going to think about the book you're writing. You're going to think about the one that you're editing. Okay, it's a cleanser here. And you're going to come into it with that fresh perspective, those new eyes, that easier way of tracking everything because you've forgotten some of it, because you're not super involved, because you're not in your characters' heads. Now you can read it like another reader would read it, and you're going to catch a lot more, and you're going to be able to track a lot more, and it's going to make a lot more sense or a lot less sense, which is really good because then you can edit it and tweak it and make it what you need it to be. You want to make sure as you are creating your work that you are taking the time to put in your best effort. And for most people, that is to gain a little bit of distance before you do the editing rounds of your work and work on something else to make sure you have the freshest perspective when you can come in and edit it. And then, of course, you're going to, once again, go through your beta readers, your proofreaders, your Grammarly, your pro writing aid, all those things before you take your next step so that it is the most polished that you can make it before it goes to either your traditional publisher to then go to editing or to your indie editor to make sure that your book is ready to go out into the world and is polished and pretty and is absolutely as perfect as it can be before it goes out to the world. Questions? Go ahead and drop it down below. If you want more writing tips, we got them from me and from other best-selling authors. We got tons of guests here on the show, everything from best-selling authors to lawyers, to accountants, to people who are helping you to build your business as an author and navigate the world of publishing to keep you safe, protected, and profitable in this space. Daily videos are dropped to help you navigate your work so that this can be your most profitable and stress-free year ever as you're living your best life and living out your author dreams because your business is working on your behalf while you're not managing it every minute of every day. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.